For the third straight day, President Trump is attacking the Pope in a phone call with an Italian newspaper. Yes, he was speaking with an Italian newspaper, and in that conversation, he said this about the Pope. He doesn't understand and shouldn't be talking about war because he has no idea what's happening. President Trump also took a shot at the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, who, you see the two of them there, they have had pretty friendly relations up until this moment in time. He said, she had said that his attacks on the Pope were unacceptable. President Trump responded to that, saying it's her who's unacceptable because she doesn't care if Iran has a nuclear weapon and would blow up Italy in 2 minutes if they had a chance.
I'm relieved to see, am I relieved to see that the media suddenly cares about blasphemy, at least when it comes to Christianity? I know they cared about it when it came to images of the Prophet Muhammad, but now, wow, this brawl with the Pope. Personally, I think that the Pope should have stayed in his lane, right? Yes. Talked about what's in the Bible, the biblical teachings, sure, be against war in principle, no problem with that, talk about peace. But he also dared to speak like some expert on military strategy and international law, which it's not an expert in either of those things. The war's a failure, the wars could be illegal, all that kind of stuff. Do you think that criticism will sting, will affect how Trump is viewed in religious circles?
No. And here's why. I largely agree with you, Andrew. The Pope has a role to talk about peace and love and what the gospel preaches for all of us. But I honestly believe that and again, I'm very careful because I really would love to end up in heaven some point. So I'm very careful about what I say with respect to the Holy Father. But I would just argue that the Holy Father spoke about peace. And I would argue that the president shares that goal of peace. It's Iran that doesn't, and Iran that has for 47 years wreaked havoc on the world, on killed innocent civilians, chanted death to America, death to Israel. And it is Donald Trump through, a new series of tactics that every president has proclaimed that they weren't going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon or stop the threats that they posed. It's Donald Trump that finally took action to stop that. And what the Pope, I think, really was trying to take issue with was some of the rhetoric. And I got to be honest with you. Look, for 47 years, presidents of both parties have talked about action that they would take and the threat that Iran posed, and then, frankly, done little to nothing. And so I would just urge the Pope to look at what the end game is. The vice president was in Pakistan for 21 hours straight, and they posted publicly what the 6 issues were that they wanted Iran to agree to. All of them were about peace. And peace, frankly, that is a lot closer to countries in Europe and the Gulf state countries than it is to the United States. I've said this before, Andrew, but I want to make sure I emphasize this to everybody. The easy choice for Donald Trump was to do nothing, as so many other presidents have done. He could have, with the midterms coming, said, look, let's get beyond the midterms. Let's see if they pose an additional strike. I don't think there's much political upside to what Donald Trump did, to be honest with you. But it was the right thing to do for America. It was the right thing to do for the world, frankly. The president's tactics have been very focused on achieving a peace, getting rid of that uranium, getting rid of the other military capabilities, the military-industrial complex, so that they can't reconstitute a threat to not just the United States, but to all of its neighbors in the Gulf region, all of Europe, etc.